The room was completely silent. Everyone was listening. Then one day I saw an old man who needed help crossing the street. Everyone else walked past him. But I stopped. I helped him across. It was such a small thing. It took maybe 5 minutes out of my day. But those 5 minutes changed my life. He told them about meeting Vin, about the internship, about learning a trade and finding a home, about discovering that he mattered, that he had value, that his life could be more than just survival. Vin gave me an opportunity, Minjun said, but he gave me something even more important. He showed me that my past didn't have to define my future, that where I came from didn't determine where I could go, that one person believing in me could change everything. His voice cracked with emotion. Now I have a good job. I have a home. I have savings. I have a future. But you know what makes me happiest? I have the ability to help others now. I volunteer at the shelter where I used to live. I talk to kids who feel the way I used to feel, hopeless, invisible, worthless, and I tell them what Vin told me. You matter. Your life has value. One opportunity can change everything. He paused and looked out at the crowd. I started a scholarship fund to help young people like me. Kids who are trying hard but need a little support. Last month I helped a girl pay her college application fees. This week I helped a boy get his first job. These are small things. But small things can change lives. I know because small things changed mine. Minjun took a deep breath. If you have resources, please consider giving to organizations that help young people. If you have a business, consider hiring someone who's had a hard start. If you have influence, use it to open doors for people who deserve chances. One opportunity can save a life. It saved mine. He stepped back from the microphone. For a moment, there was silence. Then the room erupted in applause. People stood up. Some were wiping tears from their eyes. Minjun felt overwhelmed. Vin came on stage and hugged him. That was perfect, he whispered. You're going to change so many lives tonight. After the speech, people surrounded Minjun. They shook his hand. They told him his story inspired them. Business owners asked how they could help. People wrote checks to the foster care charity. Several people asked Minjun for information about his scholarship fund. A woman who owned a chain of restaurants said she wanted to create internships for foster youth at her businesses. A man who ran a tech company said he would donate computers to shelters. A couple who owned real estate said they would provide housing support. Minjun watched in amazement as his story sparked action. As his pain and struggle became something that could help others, it felt like magic. At the end of the night, Vin pulled him aside. You did something really important tonight. You reminded people that every person has value, that everyone deserves a chance. That's going to create real change. I just told the truth, Minjun said. The truth is powerful. Your truth especially. 3 weeks later, Minjun received a letter. Inside was a check for $5,000. The note said, for your scholarship fund. Your story moved me. Keep helping others. Anonymous, Minjun stared at the check. This was more than he made in 3 months. With this money, he could help so many people. He deposited the check and immediately used some of it. He paid first month's rent for a young man leaving the shelter. He bought a laptop for a girl who needed it for school. He covered the cost of interview clothes for 3 different kids looking for jobs. Word spread about his scholarship fund. More donations came in. People who had heard his speech sent checks. The fund grew to $10,000, then $15,000, then $20,000. Minjun could not believe it. He was running a real scholarship program now. He set up a proper system with Mrs. Kim. They created an application process. They chose recipients based on need and effort, not grades or achievements. They focused on kids who were trying hard but needed support. By the 1-year anniversary of meeting Vin Diesel, Minjun had helped 37 young people. Some needed small amounts, some needed larger support, but all of them needed someone to believe in them. On that anniversary day, Minjun woke up early. He got dressed in his work clothes and looked at himself in the mirror. He looked different than he had a year ago, healthier, happier, more confident, but still himself. Still Minjun. He went to work, where Jack had a surprise waiting. We're making you a senior mechanic. You've earned it. Pay goes up to $30 an hour, and you'll be leading major projects now. Minjun thanked him, honored and humbled. After work, he went to visit Mr. Martinez. They had lunch at their usual spot. 1 year ago today, you helped me cross that street, Mr. Martinez said with a smile. Best day of my life, because I got to meet you and be part of your story. You changed my life, Mr. Martinez. No, my boy. You changed your own life. I just happened to need help at the right moment. That evening, there was a small celebration at the workshop. Jack, the other mechanics, Marcus, Lisa, and several people from the company came. Sarah brought a cake. Vin showed up with a gift 1 year, Vin said, handing Min-jun an envelope. I'm proud of you, man. Really proud. Inside the envelope was a card. It read, From a poor orphan who helped an old man to a successful mechanic who changes lives. You've become exactly the person I hoped you would be. Keep being amazing. Vin Min-jun felt tears in his eyes. Thank you for everything. Thank you for proving that taking a chance on someone with a good heart is always worth it. As Min-jun rode the bus home that night, he thought about the past year. About how one choice to help someone had led to this. A career, a home, a purpose, a life filled with meaning. He thought about all the young people he had helped, all the lives he had touched, all the hope he had given. He pulled out his phone and opened his notes. He typed a new entry. 1 year ago, I thought my life was over before it began. I thought I was nobody, that I didn't matter. I was wrong. Everyone matters. Everyone has value, and one moment of choosing kindness can change everything. Today, I'm not just surviving. I'm living. I'm thriving. I'm helping others. And this is just the beginning. I'm going to spend the rest of my life opening doors for people the way doors were opened for me. That's my promise. That's my purpose. That's who I am. He saved the note and looked out the window. The city lights sparkled in the darkness. Somewhere out there, someone was struggling the way he had struggled. Someone was feeling hopeless. Someone was wondering if life would ever get better. Min-jun smiled. He would find those people. He would help them. He would show them that change was possible, that opportunities existed, that one person believing in them could change everything, because he was living proof. A poor orphan had helped an old man cross the street. Then Vin Diesel appeared, and everything changed, not because of luck, not because of magic, but because kindness created opportunity, because hard work led to success, because one person saw value in another person. Min-jun got off the bus and walked to his apartment. His home, his life. He was not a poor orphan anymore. He was Min-jun, mechanic, mentor, helper, friend, someone who had survived and thrived and now dedicated his life to helping others do the same. And his story would inspire others to write their own stories of transformation, stories of hope, stories of second chances, stories of kindness creating miracles, one person at a time, one opportunity at a time, one life at a time. This was just the beginning. The clock on the wall showed 9:47 p.m. Professor Richard Chen stood in front of a large blackboard in his office at Hanford University. The board was covered with numbers, symbols, and equations that looked like a foreign language to most people. His gray hair was messy and his glasses sat crooked on his nose. He had been staring at the same problem for hours, just like he had done for the past 10 years. The mathematics building was quiet at this hour. Most professors had gone home to their families. The students had left after their evening classes. Only the sound of Chen's chalk scratching against the board broke the silence. He wrote another line of calculations, then stepped back. He tilted his head, studying his work. Something was still wrong. He could feel it. Chen had been working on this equation since he was a young professor. Now he was 53 years old. This problem had consumed a decade of his life. It was a theoretical calculus equation that could change how computers worked. If he could solve it, quantum computers would become faster and more powerful. His work could make him famous in the mathematics world. But the solution kept slipping away from him, always just out of reach. He sighed and rubbed his tired eyes. Papers covered his desk in messy piles. Coffee cups, some still half full, sat between books and journals. The office smelled like old coffee and chalk dust. Chen picked up a red marker and circled a section of the equation. Maybe if he approached it from a different angle tomorrow. The door opened quietly. Chen barely noticed. He was used to the cleaning staff coming through at night. A woman in a dark blue uniform pushed a yellow cleaning cart into the room. She moved carefully, trying not to make noise. Her name tag read Maya Santos. She was 43 years old with dark hair pulled back in a simple ponytail. Her hands showed the rough marks of hard work. Maya had been cleaning this building for 5 years. She knew the routine well. Empty the trash, dust the shelves, sweep the floor, and leave. The professors rarely looked at her. To them, she was invisible. Just another person in a uniform doing a job that no one thought about. That was fine with Maya. She preferred being invisible. It was safer that way. She moved to the trash can near Chen's desk and carefully lifted out the bag. Chen continued working, not even glancing her way. Maya tied the bag and placed it in her cart. She pulled out a cleaning cloth and a bottle of spray. She moved along the bookshelf, wiping away dust. The books were about mathematics. Their titles used words she recognized, but most people would not. Advanced calculus, differential equations, number theory. Maya's eyes flickered to these titles, but she quickly looked away. She moved to the next shelf, then the next. She was careful to stay quiet, to not disturb the professor's work. That was the rule. Clean efficiently and invisibly. She moved closer to the blackboard to dust the ledge where the chalk and erasers sat. She reached up with her cloth, wiping the white dust from the black ledge. As she pulled her hand back, her elbow bumped the board. The cloth in her hand brushed against the bottom corner of the blackboard, smearing a small section of Chen's equations. Maya's heart stopped. She stared at the smudge. 3 lines of calculations were now blurred and unreadable. She had just erased part of the professor's work. What did you just do? Chen's voice cut through the silence like a knife. Maya turned around slowly. Her hands were shaking. I'm sorry, Professor. I didn't mean to. Chen moved toward the board quickly. He saw the smudge section and his face went red. Do you even know what you just erased? His voice was loud now, filled with frustration. That's 10 years of work. 10 years! I'm very sorry, sir. It was an accident. Maya's voice was small. She felt her throat getting tight. She needed this job. She could not lose this job. Chen laughed, but it was not a kind laugh. It was the laugh of someone who thought they were dealing with a foolish person. An accident. Do you have any idea what these equations mean? Of course you don't. How could you? He waved his hand at the board. This is advanced mathematics. This is years of research. Maya looked down at the floor. Her face felt hot. She wanted to explain that she had been careful, that she always was, that this had never happened before. But the word stuck in her throat. Just finish and get out, Chen said, turning back to the board. He was already trying to remember what he had written in that corner. His hand moved across the board, rewriting what he could recall. Maya finished dusting quickly. Her hands were still shaking. She swept the floor as fast as she could without making noise. Every few seconds she glanced at the professor. He was completely focused on his board now, muttering to himself as he rewrote his work. As Maya moved around the office, something strange happened. She found herself looking at the equations on the board, not just glancing but actually reading them. The symbols and numbers were arranged in patterns. She recognized some of it. The notation for derivatives, the integral symbols, the Greek letters that represented variables. She should not know these things. A janitor should not understand what she was seeing. But Maya did understand. At least she understood enough to recognize what kind of problem this was. Maya Santos had not always been a janitor. 25 years ago in Manila, Philippines, she had been a different person. She had been a student at the University of Santo Tomas, studying mathematics. Her professors had called her gifted. She had won competitions, solving problems that other students could not. She loved mathematics the way some people loved music or art. It was a language that made sense to her, a puzzle that always had an answer if you looked at it the right way. But then the typhoon came. Typhoon Yolanda hit the Philippines in 2013, one of the strongest storms ever recorded. Maya's family lived in a coastal town. The storm destroyed their house, their business, everything they owned. Her father was injured badly, unable to work. Her 3 younger siblings needed food, medicine, school supplies. The family looked to Maya, their oldest child, their smart daughter who everyone said would become a professor someday. Maya had a choice. She could continue her studies and hope her family survived, or she could leave school and find work. It was not really a choice at all. She left the university in her 3rd year. She never went back. She found work in a factory, then as a store clerk. The money was not enough. When a chance came to go to America to work and send money home, she took it. She left the Philippines with a work visa, a small suitcase, and her dreams packed away where no one could see them. That was 18 years ago. She had been in America for 18 years, working jobs that made her invisible. She cleaned offices at night and worked at a grocery store on weekends. She lived in a small apartment with 2 other women. She sent most of her money home to Manila, where her father still needed medicine and her youngest brother was now in college. She survived on instant noodles and rice. She owned 3 uniforms and 2 pairs of shoes. This was her life now. Maya picked up her cleaning cart and moved toward the door. She glanced back one more time at the blackboard. The equations filled the entire surface, line after line of mathematical notation. In the corner where she had accidentally erased his work, Professor Chen had rewritten most of it. But Maya noticed something. One of his numbers was wrong. In his frustration and rush to rewrite, he had made a small error. It was just 1 digit, but in an equation this complex, one small error could throw everything off. She opened her mouth to say something, then closed it. No. A janitor could not correct a professor. He would never believe her. He would probably fire her for the insult. She had already caused enough trouble tonight. Maya pushed her cart out of the office and closed the door quietly behind her. She moved down the hallway to the next office, but her mind stayed in that room. The equation stayed with her. She could still see it in her head, the way you remember a song you heard on the radio. As she cleaned the next office and the one after that, the symbols and numbers played in her mind like notes in a melody. By the time Maya finished her shift and walked out into the cold night air, the equation had taken root in her thoughts. She tried to push it away. She had learned long ago not to think about mathematics. It only made her sad, reminding her of what she had lost. But this equation was different. It called to her like an old friend, asking her to remember who she used to be. She walked to the bus stop and waited in the dark. The street was empty. A cold wind blew papers across the pavement. Maya pulled her thin jacket tighter and thought about that blackboard, about those equations, about the small error she had seen in the corner. She told herself to forget it. It was not her problem. She was just a janitor, but some things cannot be forgotten. Some parts of who we are stay with us no matter how hard we try to leave them behind. Maya's apartment was on the 3rd floor of an old building on the east side of the city. The elevator had not worked in 2 years, so she climbed the stairs slowly. Her legs were tired from standing and walking all night. The hallway smelled like cooking food and old carpet. She could hear a television playing in one apartment and a baby crying in another. She unlocked her door and stepped inside. The apartment was small. 1 room served as bedroom, living room, and study space. There was a tiny kitchen in the corner, and a bathroom so small you had to step over the toilet to reach the shower. Maya shared this apartment with 2 other women who also worked night shifts, but they were at work now. She had the place to herself. Maya dropped her bag by the door and took off her shoes. Her feet ached. She should eat something and go to sleep. She had to be at the grocery store by noon for her weekend shift. That gave her about 6 hours to sleep. But she was not hungry and she was not tired. Her mind was too active. She walked to her bed and knelt down beside it. She reached underneath and pulled out a cardboard box. The box was old and bent at the corners. She opened it carefully. Inside were books. 5 textbooks that she had carried with her from the Philippines 18 years ago. They were the only things she had kept from her university days. Advanced Calculus by Tan and Lee. The cover was worn and the pages were yellow with age. Maya ran her hand over it. She had bought this book with money saved from her part-time job at a coffee shop in Manila. She remembered the excitement she had felt, carrying it home, staying up all night reading it. Next was differential equations and linear algebra, then number theory and its applications, then introduction to real analysis, and finally, modern abstract algebra. These books had traveled across the ocean with her, had moved from one cheap apartment to another, had stayed hidden under beds and in closets. They were her secret companions. Maya opened the calculus book. On the inside cover in faded ink was her name written in her younger handwriting. Maria Teresa Santos, 3rd year mathematics, University of Santo Tomas, 2006. She stared at this name. Maria Teresa. She had stopped using her full name when she came to America. Maria Teresa was the girl who loved mathematics, who dreamed of being a professor. Maya was the woman who cleaned offices and survived. She pulled out a notebook from the box. This notebook was newer. She had been buying cheap notebooks from the dollar store for the past few years, whenever she could afford one. The notebook was half filled with her handwriting. Problems, solutions, theorems, proofs. She had been teaching herself slowly in stolen moments between work shifts, when she could not sleep, when the apartment was quiet and empty, when her roommates were at work and the city outside was dark. Maya would pull out these books. She would read a chapter. She would work through problems. She would remember what it felt like to think, to solve, to understand. It was not much. It was not university. It was not what she had dreamed of. But it was something. It kept that part of her alive. Tonight she pulled out a fresh page in the notebook. At the top she wrote in small letters, Professor Chen's equation. Then she closed her eyes and tried to remember what she had seen on the blackboard. The equation came back to her in pieces. She had only looked at it for a few minutes, but her mind had captured it like a photograph. This had always been her gift. She could see patterns in numbers. She could remember mathematical structures the way some people remembered faces or songs. When she was young, her professors had called it a photographic memory for mathematics. She had thought everyone could do it. Maya began writing. The symbols flowed from her pen. The derivatives, the integrals, the variables. She reconstructed the equation line by line. It took her almost an hour, but when she finished, she had most of it. There were gaps where she could not quite remember, but the main structure was there. She looked at what she had written. It was a beautiful equation, really. Complex but elegant. She could see what Professor Chen was trying to do. He was working with manifolds, trying to solve for a variable that existed in multiple dimensions at once. This was advanced work, the kind of mathematics that only a few people in the world understood. But there was something wrong with it. Maya could feel it the same way you feel when a musical note is slightly out of tune. She studied the equation, following the logic from one line to the next. Then she saw it. The error was small, but it was fundamental. Professor Chen was treating one of his constants as fixed, as a single value that never changed. But in this type of problem, that constant needed to be variable. It needed to change based on other factors in the equation. This one assumption, this one small error had probably led him down the wrong path for years. He was building his solution on a cracked foundation. No matter how smart he was, no matter how hard he worked, he would never solve the problem this way. Maya felt a rush of excitement. It was like finding a key that fit a locked door. She grabbed her pen and started working. If she changed that assumption, if she made the constant variable instead of fixed, then the whole equation shifted. New possibilities opened up. She worked without stopping. Her hand moved across the pages, filling them with calculations. The sun started to rise outside her window, but she did not notice. Mathematics had taken over her mind completely, the way it used to when she was young. Time disappeared. Hunger disappeared. Tiredness disappeared. There was only the problem and the search for the solution. When Maya finally looked up, it was 11:30 a.m. She had been working for almost 6 hours. Her hand cramped from holding the pen. Her back hurt from sitting on the floor. But she had made progress. Real progress. She had found a different approach to the equation, a new pathway that might lead somewhere. She stood up quickly, her heart pounding. She was late. She had to be at the grocery store by noon, and it was a 30-minute bus ride away. She threw on her work clothes, grabbed her bag, and ran out the door. She would be late, and her manager would be angry. She could not afford to lose this job, too. Maya made it to the store 15 minutes late. Her manager, a tired-looking woman named Susan, frowned at her. "This is the second time this month, Maya. I'm sorry." The bus was delayed. It was a lie, but Susan did not question it. "Don't let it happen again. We have a big delivery today. I need you in the back unpacking boxes." Maya spent the next 8 hours in the storage room, opening boxes and stocking shelves. Her body moved automatically, but her mind was somewhere else. It was back in her apartment, looking at those pages of calculations. The equation had hooked itself into her brain. She could not stop thinking about it. During her lunch break, she sat in the employee break room with her notebook. The other workers talked and laughed around her, but Maya was silent. She ate her sandwich with one hand and wrote with the other. More calculations, more approaches, more possibilities. A co-worker named Sarah sat down across from her. Sarah was young, maybe 22, and she was always friendly to Maya. "What are you working on?" School stuff? Maya closed the notebook quickly. Just practicing my English. Writing exercises, another lie. She had been in America for 18 years. Her English was fine. Oh, cool. Good for you. Sarah smiled and turned to talk to someone else. Maya felt a wave of shame. She was lying to everyone. She was pretending to be someone she was not. But what choice did she have? If she told the truth, that she was working on an advanced mathematics equation, that she had once been a promising student, that she understood things most people could not, they would think she was crazy. Or lying, or both. After work, Maya went to the university library. She had discovered that the library was open to the public. Anyone could walk in and use the computers. So once a week on her day off, she would go there. She would sit at a computer and read mathematics journals. She would look at the latest research, see what problems people were working on, what solutions they had found. Tonight, she needed to research manifolds and variable constants. She needed to see if anyone had approached this type of problem before. The library was quiet. A few students sat at tables studying for exams. Maya found an empty computer in the corner. She searched through academic databases. She read papers written by professors at universities around the world. The work was complex, and much of it was beyond what she had learned in her 3 years of university. But she understood enough. She took notes on scrap paper, writing down key theorems and approaches. A security guard walked by. Maya quickly minimized her browser and pretended to be checking email. The guard did not even look at her. She was just another person in the library. When he passed, she opened the browser again. By the time the library closed at 10 p.m., Maya had filled several pages with notes. She had found 3 papers that related to Professor Chen's equation. None of them solved his exact problem, but they gave her ideas. They showed her mathematical tools she had not thought of before. She walked to the bus stop, exhausted but buzzing with energy. Her bag felt heavy with her notebook and borrowed knowledge. The night air was cold and she could see her breath. The city lights reflected off the clouds above. On the bus ride home, Maya thought about what she was doing. This was crazy, wasn't it? She was a janitor spending all her free time on a mathematics problem that a renowned professor could not solve. She had no degree, no credentials, no right to even try. What made her think she could succeed where he had failed? But another voice in her head answered back. It was the voice of young Maria Teresa, the girl who had won mathematics competitions, whose professors had said she was gifted. That voice said, "You can do this. You know you can. You have always known." When Maya got home, her roommates were awake, getting ready for their night shifts. Ji-won worked at a hotel, cleaning rooms. Rosa worked at a hospital, cleaning floors and bathrooms. They were good women, kind women who, like Maya, had come to America looking for a better life. Long day? Ji-won asked in her accented English. Yes, very long. Maya smiled tiredly. You look exhausted. Get some sleep. After they left, Maya pulled out her notebook again. She should sleep. She had to work tomorrow. But she could not stop now. She was too close to something. She could feel it. She worked until 3 a.m. By then, her solution had taken shape. It was not complete yet, but the framework was there. She had found a way to approach the equation that Professor Chen had not considered. She had used methods from different areas of mathematics, combining them in a new way. As she finally climbed into bed, too tired to even change her clothes, Maya thought about Professor Chen in his office. She wondered if he was still working, still struggling with the same problem. She wondered what he would think if he knew that his janitor, the woman who had accidentally erased part of his work, was lying in a small apartment working on his equation. He would never believe it. No one would believe it. But that did not matter. Maya was not doing this for recognition or credit. She was doing it because the problem had called to her, because mathematics was still her first language, even after all these years of silence, because some part of who we are cannot be erased by time or circumstance or necessity. She was doing it because she had to know if the girl she used to be was still alive, somewhere inside the woman she had become. For the next 2 weeks, Maya lived in 2 worlds. In one world, she was a janitor and a grocery store clerk. She emptied trash cans, mopped floors, stocked shelves, and said yes, ma'am, and no, sir to people who never really looked at her. In this world, she was invisible, forgettable, just another person in a uniform doing work that no one wanted to think about. In her other world, the secret world, She was something else entirely. She was a mathematician working on a problem that had stumped a renowned professor for 10 years. In this world, her mind was sharp and alive. In this world, she mattered. Every spare moment belonged to the equation. During her lunch breaks, she filled notebooks with calculations. On the bus, she stared out the window and worked through problems in her head. At night, after her cleaning shift, she went to the library and read academic papers until her eyes burned. Then she went home and worked until dawn, sleeping only a few hours before starting the cycle again. She lost weight. Her roommates noticed but said nothing. Maya had always been private, quiet. They respected her space. She knew she looked tired, but she could not stop. The equation had consumed her completely. It was an obsession, but it was also a gift. For the first time in 18 years, she felt fully alive. On a Tuesday night, Maya was cleaning the mathematics building as usual. She moved from office to office with her cart, emptying bins and dusting shelves. When she reached Professor Chen's office, she paused. The door was closed and the light was off. He was not there tonight. The office was empty and dark. Maya looked down the hallway. No one was around. The building was silent except for the hum of fluorescent lights. She knew she should not do what she was thinking. It was wrong. It was a violation of privacy. But she needed to see the blackboard again. She needed to check something. She used her master key to unlock the door and slipped inside. She turned on the light. The blackboard was still covered with equations, but they had changed. Professor Chen had been working on a different section now, approaching the problem from yet another angle. Maya studied it carefully. He was still stuck. She could see him going in circles, trying the same approaches with small variations, hoping for a different result. She took out her phone and quickly photographed the entire blackboard. She felt guilty doing it, but she told herself it was for research. She was not stealing his work. She was trying to solve the same problem. That was different. At least that is what she told herself. As she was taking the last photo, she heard footsteps in the hallway. Her heart jumped into her throat. She quickly put away her phone, turned off the light, and stepped out of the office. She pulled her cleaning cart in front of her just as another janitor appeared around the corner. It was Jin Park, a Korean man in his 50s who had been working at the university for almost as long as Maya. He smiled when he saw her. "Working late again, Maya?" "Yes, lots to do tonight." Her voice sounded normal, but her hands were shaking. Jin looked at her carefully. He was a kind man, observant. "You okay? You look tired lately." "I'm fine, just busy." Jin nodded, but he did not look convinced. "You know where to find me if you need to talk." He continued down the hallway to the next office. Maya took a deep breath. That was close. She finished her shift quickly and left the building. On the bus home, she looked at the photos on her phone. Yes, she had been right. Professor Chen was making the same fundamental error over and over again. He was so committed to his original approach that he could not see there was another way. That night, Maya worked with new focus. She had all the pieces now. The photographs from Chen's board, her own calculations, the research papers she had read, the theorems she had learned. Everything came together in her mind like a puzzle completing itself. She was sitting on the floor of her apartment, surrounded by papers. It was 2 a.m., her roommates were at work. The building was quiet. Maya wrote out a long chain of calculations, checking each step carefully. Then she reached the end. She stared at what she had written. Her heart was pounding. She had done it. She had solved the equation. Maya sat perfectly still, afraid to move, afraid to breathe. She read through her work again, looking for mistakes. She checked every calculation, every step in the logic, every assumption. It took her another hour. But the solution held. There were no errors. The mathematics was sound. The answer was there on the page in her handwriting. The solution to Professor Chen's 10-year problem. The equation that could change how quantum computers worked. The proof that could make someone famous in the academic world. And she had found it. A janitor sitting on the floor of a cheap apartment at 3 a.m. had solved what a renowned professor could not. Maya started to cry. She was not sure why. Relief, maybe. Or exhaustion. Or the weight of what she had just done. Or maybe she was crying for the girl she used to be. For Maria Teresa, who had to leave university. For all the years of silence and invisible work. She cried quietly, wiping her tears with the back of her hand, trying not to wake her neighbors. When the tears stopped, she looked at her solution again. It was real. It was correct. She knew it was correct with the same certainty she knew her own name. But now she faced a new problem, one that had nothing to do with mathematics. What should she do with this solution? The smart thing, the safe thing, would be to do nothing. She could put these papers in her box under the bed, close the lid, and forget about it. She could go back to being just a janitor, invisible and safe. No one would ever know. Professor Chen would eventually solve it himself, or maybe he would not. Either way, it was not her problem. She could just let it go, but could she really? Could she let this solution die in a box under her bed? Could she watch Professor Chen struggle with something she had already solved? Could she keep silent when she knew the answer? Maya thought about this for the next 3 days. She went to work as usual, but her mind was far away. She carried her solution with her everywhere, folded in her pocket. Several times she took it out and looked at it, making sure it was real, making sure she had not dreamed it. On Friday night, Jin found her sitting alone in the break room during her lunch break. She was staring at nothing, lost in thought. He sat down across from her with his own lunch. "You've been different lately," Jin said quietly. He spoke English with a strong Korean accent, but his words were always thoughtful. "Something is bothering you." Maya looked at him. Jin was one of the few people in her life who knew anything about her past. One night, years ago, they had worked late together cleaning after a big university event. They had talked while they worked. She had told him about Manila, about her university studies, about having to leave. He had understood. He had his own story of lost dreams. He had been a high school teacher in Seoul before coming to America. Now he cleaned classrooms instead of teaching in them. "Jin," Maya said slowly, "if you knew something important, something that could help someone, but telling them might cause you problems, what would you do?" Jin thought about this while he ate his sandwich. "That depends. How important is the thing you know?" "Very important. It could change someone's life work." "And what kind of problems would it cause you?" "I don't know. Maybe nothing. Maybe everything. They might not believe me. They might think I stole the information. They might fire me." Maya's voice was quiet. "They might laugh at me." Jin nodded slowly. "I understand. You know something about mathematics, don't you? Something about that professor's work?" Maya was shocked. "How did you—" "I see you, Maya. I see you looking at the equations on the blackboards when you think no one is watching. I see you with your notebooks. I've known for a long time that you are not just a janitor." He smiled gently. "I'm not just a janitor either. We are people who had other lives before this. That doesn't go away." Maya felt tears coming again. It was such a relief to be seen, to be known, even by just one person. "I solved his equation, Jin. Professor Chen's problem that he's been working on for 10 years. I solved it." Jin's eyes widened. "Are you sure?" "Yes. I've checked it 100 times." "It's correct. Then you have to tell him." "But what if nothing?" Jin interrupted, his voice firm but kind. "You found the answer. That is what matters. If he is a good man, he will listen. If he is not, then at least you tried. But you cannot keep this secret. It will eat at you. I can already see it eating at you." "I'm scared," Maya admitted. "Of course you are. Courage is being scared and doing the thing anyway." Jin finished his sandwich and stood up. "The question is not whether you are scared. The question is whether you will let fear stop you from being who you really are." After Jin left, Maya sat alone in the break room. She pulled the folded papers from her pocket and looked at her solution one more time. The mathematics stared back at her, elegant and true. Jin was right. She could not keep this secret, not because of Professor Chen, but because of herself. She had spent 18 years being invisible, being silent, pretending to be less than she was. Maybe it was time to stop hiding. That night, Maya finished her shift as usual. She cleaned all the offices, including Professor Chen's. He was not there. The blackboard still showed his work, still showed him going in circles. She stood in front of it for a long time, her cleaning cart beside her, her solution in her pocket. Tomorrow was Saturday. She did not work at the university on Saturdays, only at the grocery store, but she would come back Monday night, and she would make a decision then. She would either say something or she would not. She had 3 days to choose. Maya spent the weekend in a fog of anxiety and doubt. She worked her shift at the grocery store, but she barely spoke to anyone. At home, she took out her solution and read through it again and again, looking for any flaw, any mistake that would give her a reason not to say anything. But the mathematics was perfect. She knew it was perfect. On Sunday night, she could not sleep. She lay in her bed staring at the ceiling, imagining different scenarios. She imagined Professor Chen listening to her, taking her seriously, thanking her. She imagined him laughing at her, calling security, having her fired. She imagined him taking her solution and claiming it as his own. She imagined every possibility, from the best to the worst. By Monday evening, Maya had not decided anything. She went to work on autopilot, changing into her uniform, taking her cart, moving through the building like a ghost. When she reached Professor Chen's office, the door was open. The light was on. He was there, standing in front of his blackboard, chalk in hand, staring at his equations like they were enemies. Maya stood in the doorway, frozen. This was the moment. She could walk away right now and nothing would change. Or she could step forward into unknown territory. She thought about young Maria Teresa, the girl who loved mathematics more than anything, who dreamed of solving great problems. She thought about 18 years of being invisible. She thought about Jin's words. Courage is being scared and doing the thing anyway. She thought about the solution folded in her pocket, the answer that Professor Chen had been searching for, the truth waiting to be spoken. Maya took a deep breath. Her hands stopped shaking. A strange calm came over her. She had made her decision. She did not make it with her head. She made it with something deeper, some part of her that had been sleeping for 18 years and was finally waking up. She pushed her cart into the office. Professor Chen did not turn around. He was too focused on his board, too lost in his own frustration. Maya emptied his trash can as usual. She dusted his shelves. She moved around the office doing her job. But this time she was also watching the blackboard, reading his work, seeing where he had gone wrong. She swept the floor. She wiped down his desk. She did everything she was supposed to do. Then she stood near the door, her cleaning cart in front of her. She looked at the professor's back, at the blackboard covered in his decade of failed attempts. Maya opened her mouth. Her heart was pounding so hard she could hear it in her ears. This was it. This was the moment her life would change, one way or another. She had no idea what would happen next. She only knew she had to try. Professor Chen. Her voice was quiet but steady. He did not turn around. Yes? His voice was distracted, annoyed at the interruption. Maya's hands gripped the handle of her cart. She had come this far. She could not stop now. Professor Chen, I think I see something in your equation. Now he turned around. His face showed confusion and irritation. What? Maya took a breath and said the words that would change everything. I think I know how to solve it. Professor Chen stared at Maya as if she had just spoken in a foreign language. His expression was a mix of confusion and disbelief. He set down his chalk slowly and turned to face her fully. I'm sorry. What did you say? Maya's courage wavered for a moment. This was a mistake. She should leave now, apologize, pretend she had said nothing. But her mouth was already moving. Your equation. I think I know how to solve it. For a long moment, Chen just looked at her. Then he laughed. It was not the angry laugh from 2 weeks ago when she had erased his work. This laugh was different. It was the laugh of someone who thinks they have heard something absurd. You think you know how to solve my equation? Yes, sir. Do you even know what kind of equation it is? He was not being mean exactly. His tone was like an adult speaking to a child who has said something cute but silly. It's a differential manifold problem. You're trying to solve for a variable that exists in multiple dimensions simultaneously. Maya's voice was still quiet, but it was steady. Chen's smile faded slightly. He looked at her more carefully now. How do you know that terminology? I studied mathematics in the Philippines before I came here. You studied mathematics? Chen's tone suggested he did not quite believe her. Where? University of Santo Tomas, Manila. And you finished your degree? No, sir. I had to leave in my 3rd year. Family problems. Chen nodded slowly, but his expression said he was still skeptical. That's unfortunate. But you understand I've been working on this problem for 10 years. I have a PhD from MIT. I've published 37 papers in peer-reviewed journals. This is extremely advanced work. Even if you studied mathematics for 3 years, I don't see how— You're constant in line 7, Maya interrupted, then immediately regretted it. You did not interrupt professors. I'm sorry. I didn't mean to— What about line 7? Chen's voice was sharp now. Maya pointed at the blackboard. There, that constant. You're treating it as fixed. But in this type of manifold, it needs to be variable. It changes based on the dimensional shift in line 12. Chen turned to look at the blackboard. He stared at the line Maya had pointed to. His hand came up to his chin. That constant has to be fixed. If it's variable, the entire framework collapses. No, sir. Respectfully, the framework collapses because you're keeping it fixed. That's why you keep running into contradictions in your later calculations. If you let it be variable, dependent on the dimensional parameter, then the equation opens up. It becomes solvable. Chen was fully focused on her now. The condescension was gone from his face. Now he looked curious and slightly alarmed. How do you know about my later calculations? Those aren't on this board. Maya felt her face get hot. I've been working on it in my head during my shifts. I couldn't stop thinking about it after I accidentally erased part of it. You've been working on my equation? For 2 weeks? Yes, sir. Where? Show me. Maya reached into her uniform pocket with shaking hands. She pulled out the folded papers. They were worn from being carried everywhere, creased and soft. She unfolded them carefully and held them out. Here. Chen took the papers. He moved to his desk where the light was better. Maya stood by her cleaning cart, hardly breathing as he read. She watched his face. First confusion, then surprise, then intense concentration. He flipped through the pages, his eyes scanning her handwritten calculations. The office was completely silent except for the rustle of paper and the hum of the fluorescent lights. Minutes passed. Chen said nothing. He just read, his finger tracing along her lines of mathematics. Once he went back to the beginning and started reading again. Maya's legs felt weak. She wanted to sit down, but there was nowhere to sit except Chen's chair, and that would be inappropriate. Finally, Chen looked up. His face had gone pale. Where did you learn this method? This approach using bifurcation theory combined with topological invariance? From papers in the library, and some I remembered from my university classes, and some— She hesitated. Some I figured out myself. You figured it out yourself. Chen's voice was flat, like he was testing the words to see if they made sense. Yes, sir. Chen set the papers down on his desk. He walked to his blackboard and stared at it for a long time. Then he turned back to Maya. This solution, if it's correct, it's brilliant. It's an approach I never considered, but I need to verify it. These calculations, He paused, looking for words. They're complex. It will take me time to check them. I understand. You need to leave these papers with me. Maya felt a spike of fear. If she left her only copy, she would have nothing to prove the work was hers. I don't have another copy. Chen saw the fear in her face. He understood immediately. You think I might steal your work? I don't know what to think, sir. I just know that I need this job. I can't afford problems. Chen was quiet for a moment. Then he pulled out his phone. What's your name? Your full name? Maria Teresa Santos. I go by Maya. Okay, Maya. I'm going to photograph every page of your solution right now with you standing here watching me. Then I'm going to email these photos to you. What's your email? Maya gave him her email address. Chen photographed each page carefully, then typed on his phone. A moment later, Maya's phone buzzed in her pocket. She checked it. There were the photos of her solution, sent from Chen's university email address. Now you have proof that you showed me this tonight, at this time, Chen said. The email is time-stamped, and you have copies of your work. Is that acceptable? Maya nodded, relieved. Yes, sir. Thank you. I'm going to spend tonight checking your calculations, Chen continued. If they're correct, and I'm not saying they are yet, I need to verify. But if they're correct, then we need to talk seriously about what happens next. This is significant work. I understand. Chen looked at her differently now, not like a janitor, but like a person. Can I ask you something? Why didn't you continue your education when you came to America? If you were this talented, you could have found a way. Maya felt the old pain, the old shame. I came here on a work visa. I had no money. My family needed me to send money home immediately. My father was injured. My siblings needed school fees. I couldn't afford to study. I couldn't afford anything except work. For 18 years? For 18 years. Maya's voice was tired. I work 2 jobs. I send most of my money home. There's nothing left for tuition. There's barely enough for food. This is my life, Professor. I'm not asking for anything to change. I saw a problem and I solved it. That's all. Chen looked like he wanted to say something, but no words came out. Finally, he said, "You should go finish your shift. I'll be in touch. Thank you for showing me this." Maya nodded. She pushed her cleaning cart toward the door. Then she stopped and turned back. "Professor Chen, can I ask you something?" "Of course. Why does this equation matter so much to you? Why work on it for 10 years? Chen smiled sadly. "Because unsolved problems haunt you. Because I wanted to be the one to solve it. Because my career, my reputation, my funding, everything depends on producing significant results. And because," he paused, "because like you, I love mathematics. It's the language I think in. The thing that makes sense when nothing else does." Maya understood perfectly. She nodded and left the office. She finished cleaning the rest of the building in a daze. Her body moved automatically, emptying trash, mopping floors. But her mind was replaying the conversation over and over. She had done it. She had told him. And he had not laughed her out of the room. He had taken her seriously. When her shift ended at midnight, Maya walked out into the cold night. She did not take the bus. She needed to walk, to move, to think. She walked through the empty campus, past dark buildings and yellow streetlights. Her breath made clouds in the cold air. She thought about what might happen now. Best case scenario, Chen would verify her solution and it would be correct and something good would come from it. Worst case, Chen would find an error, or he would steal her work, or he would simply say nothing and she would never know what happened. Middle scenario, most likely scenario. Chen would politely tell her that while her attempt was admirable, she had made mistakes that came from not having formal advanced training. By the time Maya reached her apartment, it was almost 2 a.m. Her roommates were at work. The apartment was dark and empty. She did not turn on the lights. She just stood in the darkness, feeling the weight of what she had done. She had broken her own rule. For 18 years, she had kept her head down, stayed invisible, caused no problems. Tonight, she had made herself visible. She had claimed knowledge she was not supposed to have. She had challenged a professor. She had stepped out of the safe shadows into dangerous light. Maya pulled out her phone and looked at the email Chen had sent. The photos of her solution were there, proof that she had shown it to him. But would it matter? If he wanted to steal her work, he could claim she had stolen it from him, that she had somehow accessed his unpublished research. Who would believe a janitor over a professor? She sat down on her bed without taking off her uniform. She was exhausted, but she knew she would not sleep. Her mind was too active, spinning through possibilities, trying to prepare for every outcome. At 3:17 a.m., her phone buzzed. An email. Maya's heart jumped. She opened it with shaking hands. It was from Professor Chen. The subject line read, "Your solution." Maya's finger hovered over the email for several seconds before she could make herself open it. When she did, there was only one sentence. "We need to talk. Can you come to my office tomorrow at 9 a.m.? Tomorrow was Tuesday. Maya worked at the grocery store from noon to 8 p.m. She could go to his office before work. But what did he want to talk about? Had he found an error? Was he going to offer her something? Was he going to threaten her? Maya typed a reply with trembling fingers. "Yes, I'll be there at 9. She sent the email and set down her phone. Then she lay back on her bed, still in her uniform, and stared at the ceiling. Somewhere in this city, Professor Chen was probably awake too, checking her calculations, following her logic, seeing the solution that had evaded him for a decade. 2 people, from completely different worlds, connected by the universal language of mathematics. One was a celebrated professor with credentials and reputation and career. The other was a janitor with a dream that refused to die. By morning, one of them would have changed the other's life forever. Maya just was not sure which one yet. She closed her eyes and waited for the sun to rise, waited for 9 a.m., waited to learn what happened when an invisible person finally allowed herself to be seen. Maya did not sleep. She lay on her bed watching the darkness outside her window slowly turn to gray, then to the pale blue of early morning. At 6 a.m. she got up and showered. She put on her best clothes, which were not much. A pair of dark jeans without holes, a simple blue sweater, clean sneakers. She looked at herself in the small bathroom mirror. She looked tired, scared, and very ordinary. At 7:30 a.m. she left her apartment. The bus was crowded with people going to work. Maya stood near the back, holding a pole for balance, watching the city pass by. She rehearsed conversations in her head, trying to prepare for whatever was coming, but she could not predict what Professor Chen would say. She could only wait. She arrived at the mathematics building at 8:45 a.m. The building looked different during the day. In the daylight, it was busy with students and professors. Maya usually saw it empty and quiet. Now there were people everywhere, talking and laughing, carrying coffee cups and backpacks. She felt out of place in her regular clothes, like an imposter who had wandered into a world where she did not belong. She took the stairs to the 3rd floor. Her legs felt heavy. Outside Professor Chen's office, she paused. The door was closed. She checked her phone. 8:52 a.m. She was early. She decided to wait. At exactly 9 a.m. the door opened. Professor Chen stood there. He looked like he had not slept either. His hair was messy, his eyes were red, and he was wearing the same clothes as last night. He saw Maya and nodded. "Come in." Maya entered the office. The blackboards were now covered with new equations. She recognized her own work mixed with Chen's notation. He had been working through her solution all night, checking it, verifying it, adding to it. "Sit down," Chen said, gesturing to a chair. It was the first time he had ever offered her a seat. Maya sat carefully on the edge of the chair, her back straight, her hands in her lap. Chen sat behind his desk. He picked up her papers, now covered with his red ink marks where he had checked her calculations. "I've spent the last 9 hours going through your solution line by line. I've checked every step, every assumption, every calculation." Maya's mouth was dry. "And it's correct." Chen's voice was quiet. "Your solution is completely correct. You solved it. You solved a problem I've been working on for 10 years. Maya felt dizzy with relief. She had been right. The mathematics was sound. She had not made a mistake. But Chen did not look happy. He looked troubled. "I need to understand something," Chen continued. "How is this possible? You're a janitor. You have 3 years of undergraduate education from 18 years ago. How did you do this?" "I told you. I've been studying on my own, reading, learning, working problems. For 18 years? While working 2 jobs? Yes, Chen shook his head in disbelief. Do you understand how extraordinary this is? Most people with PhDs in mathematics could not solve this problem. I couldn't solve it. And I have every resource, every advantage. Yet you, working alone with no guidance, no formal training beyond 3rd-year undergraduate work, solved it in 2 weeks. I didn't really solve it in 2 weeks, Maya said. I've been learning for 18 years, building my understanding. The 2 weeks was just when I applied everything I knew to this specific problem. But why? Why study mathematics if you knew you couldn't use it? Why torture yourself with something you could never have? The question cut deep. Maya looked down at her hands. Because I love it. Because it's the only thing that's mine. Because when I'm working on a problem, I'm not a janitor or a grocery clerk or someone who failed her family's expectations. I'm just a person solving a puzzle. Mathematics doesn't care what I do for money. It only cares if I'm right or wrong. Chen was quiet for a long moment. Then he said, I was wrong about you. When you erased my work, I laughed at you. I assumed you were careless and uneducated. I made a judgment based on your uniform instead of your mind. I'm sorry for that. You didn't know. I should have known better than to make assumptions. Chen leaned forward. Maya, we need to talk about what happens now. This solution is significant. It will be published in a major mathematics journal. It will be cited by other researchers. It will open new areas of study in quantum computing. This is important work. I know. You deserve credit for it. This is your discovery, not mine. Maya's heart started beating faster. What are you saying? I'm saying we should publish this together. Equal authorship. Your name and my name side by side. I provide the institutional backing, the credentials that will make journals take it seriously. You provide the actual solution. We both deserve recognition for this work. It sounded too good to be true. Maya's instinct was to be suspicious. Why would you do that? You could just take my work and publish it yourself. Who would believe me if I complained? I could do that, Chen admitted. And to be honest, a part of me thought about it last night. This solution could save my career, restore my reputation, secure my funding. Taking credit for it would be easy. He paused. But it would be theft, and it would be wrong. I've spent 10 years failing to solve this problem. I'm not going to start my success with a lie. Maya wanted to believe him. But 18 years of being invisible, of being dismissed, of learning not to trust easy promises, had taught her to be careful. What if I say no? What if I want to publish alone? Then you should. It's your right. But I'll be honest with you about the challenges. Without a university affiliation, without a PhD, without any publication history, you'll face skepticism. Journals might reject your paper without even reading it. Reviewers will question your credentials. It will be much harder. And if we publish together, then my name gives the work credibility. My institutional backing, my publication history, they open doors. The mathematics speaks for itself once people read it, but first they have to take it seriously enough to read it. I can help with that. Maya thought about this carefully. If we publish together, whose name goes first? Yours, Chen said immediately. You did the work. First authorship goes to you. And you'll tell people that I solved it? That it was me, not you? Yes, complete transparency. If people ask, I'll tell them the truth. You solved the equation. I verified it and provided institutional support. That's the accurate story. Maya studied Chen's face, trying to see if he was sincere. His eyes were tired but steady. He looked back at her without flinching. She thought about Jin's words. If he is a good man, he will listen. Maybe Chen was a good man. Maybe she could trust him. Okay, Maya said finally. We publish together. Equal authorship. But my name first, Chen nodded, relief showing on his face. Agreed, I'll start preparing the paper today. But Maya, there's something else we need to discuss. Your situation, your job, your education. What about it? You can't stay as a janitor. You're too talented. You need to finish your degree, get your PhD. You should be doing research, teaching, contributing to mathematics at the highest level. Maya felt a familiar pain in her chest. The pain of wanting something impossible. I can't afford university. I have no money. I have family depending on me. I need to work. What if the university offered you a full scholarship? What if you could study and work as a research assistant? You'd get paid while you study? That sounds like a fantasy. It's not. The university has programs for this, and once our paper is published, once people see what you can do, you'll have opportunities, scholarships, grants, research positions. Chen leaned forward. Maya, you have a gift. A genuine, rare gift. It's being wasted. Don't you want more than this? Of course she wanted more. She had wanted more for 18 years. But wanting and having were different things. What if I fail? What if I start studying again and I can't do it? I'm 43 years old. I've been out of school for 18 years. Everyone else will be younger, smarter, better prepared. Better prepared? Chen gestured at her solution on his desk. You just solved a problem that stumped me for a decade. You think you're not prepared? Maya, you've been preparing for 18 years. You've been teaching yourself advanced mathematics while working 2 jobs. If you can do that, you can do anything. Maya felt tears starting. She tried to hold them back, but they came anyway. I'm scared, I know. But here's what I learned last night while checking your work. You're not just smart. You're creative. You see patterns and connections that I miss. You approach problems from unexpected angles. That's not something you can teach. That's gift. And gifts like that are rare. They shouldn't be hidden. Maya wiped her eyes with her hand. What if my family needs money? What if I can't send enough home? We'll figure it out. Research assistants get paid. It's not a lot, but it's something. And there are emergency funds, support systems. The university wants to help students succeed, especially students with exceptional ability. Maya looked at the blackboard covered with equations, half hers and half Chen's. Mathematics had been her first love, her secret companion for 18 years. Could it become her life again? Could she really step from the shadows into the light? I need to think about it, she said. Of course. Take all the time you need. But Maya, please think seriously about this. Don't let fear stop you from becoming who you're meant to be. There was a knock on the door. Chen frowned. Come in. The door opened and Jin walked in. He was not in his uniform. He was wearing regular clothes, looking uncomfortable. He saw Maya and relief crossed his face. Maya, I was worried about you. You didn't answer your phone. Jin? What are you doing here? You told me about the equation. I wanted to make sure you were okay. I came to check on you. He looked at Chen. Is everything all right here? Chen stood up. Yes, everything is fine. You must be Maya's friend. I'm Richard Chen. Jin shook his hand cautiously. Jin Park, I work here too. In the cleaning department. Maya told me she'd talk to you about this, Chen said. She's lucky to have a friend who cares. Jin looked at Maya. So? What happened? Did he verify your solution? It's correct, Maya said. I solved it. Jin's face broke into a huge smile. I knew it. I knew you could do it. He turned to Chen. She's brilliant, you know. I've known it for years. She should be teaching mathematics, not cleaning classrooms. I agree, Chen said. We were just discussing that. The three of them talked for another hour. Chen explained his proposal. Jin asked questions protective of Maya, making sure Chen's intentions were honest. Slowly, Jin's suspicion faded. He began to believe that Chen was sincere, that this was a real opportunity. Finally, Jin turned to Maya. You have to do this. You know you do. This is what you've wanted your whole life. But my family, your family will understand. Your father will be proud. Your siblings are adults now. They have jobs. They don't need you to support them forever. You've given them 18 years. Maybe it's time to give yourself something. Maya thought about her father in Manila, recovering from his injuries, but working again now. She thought about her siblings, all grown up, all working. Jan was right. They did not need her money as desperately as they once did. They would survive if she sent less. She looked at Professor Chen, who was watching her hopefully. She looked at Jin, who believed in her. She looked at the blackboard covered with mathematics, the language she thought in, the thing that made her feel most alive. Okay, Maya said quietly. Okay, I'll try. I'll apply for the scholarship and the research assistant position. I'll see if it works. Chen smiled, genuine happiness on his face. It will work. I'll make sure it works. I'll write letters of recommendation. I'll advocate for you with the department. You're not doing this alone. Jin hugged Maya, something he had never done before. I'm proud of you, he said. Maya hugged him back, tears running down her face again. But this time they were different tears, not tears of frustration or pain or loss. These were tears of hope. After 18 years of invisibility, after 18 years of silence, she was finally allowing herself to be seen. She still had to tell her family. She still had to apply and be accepted. She still had to face 1,000 uncertainties. But for the first time in 18 years, Maya felt like Maria Teresa again. The girl who loved mathematics. The girl who dreamed of solving great problems. The girl who believed she could do impossible things. That girl had never really died. She had just been waiting, hiding, staying quiet until it was safe to come out. Now finally she was stepping back into the light.